Hi there. I'm so glad you're here with me today. If you've been following along, you know how much I love using stories to explore the deeper truths about how we can live more consciously, more skillfully, more peacefully. Today, we're beginning a fresh series, and I want to dive into something that I think might be one of the most powerful discoveries you can make about your own emotional life. It's something I call the choice point discovery, and it's about that tiny but mighty space that exists between every trigger and your response. That space where you have the freedom to choose your reaction instead of just being swept away by it. Let me share a story with you that really captures this, but with a twist that I think will stay with you long after our practice ends. There was once a monastery, famous throughout the land for its magnificent bell tower. The bell had rung every hour for centuries, its deep, resonant tone bringing peace to all who heard it. Pilgrims would travel for days just to sit beneath the tower and let the bell's wisdom wash over them. The monastery's newest monk, Brother Thomas, was assigned the honor of ringing this sacred bell. He took the responsibility seriously, climbing the tower steps every hour to pull the rope with reverence and care. But one stormy night, something went terribly wrong. As Thomas pulled the rope for the midnight chime, it snapped. The bell lurched, cracked, and fell silent. When it finally rang again, the sound it made wasn't pure. Resonant tone everyone loved, it was harsh, broken, discordant. Thomas was devastated. The other monks were upset. Visitors began to complain. That terrible noise is disturbing our meditation, they said. It's destroying the peace we came here to find. For weeks, Thomas desperately tried to fix the bell. He studied with craftsmen, read ancient texts, even prayed for divine intervention. But nothing worked. The bell remained cracked, and every hour it produced that same jarring, broken sound. The monastery's reputation began to suffer. Donations dropped. Pilgrims stopped coming. The other monks grew frustrated with Thomas, and he fell into despair. One day, an old woman arrived at the monastery gates. She was bent with age, walking with a cane, her clothes simple and worn. "I've come to hear your famous bell," she said. The monks were embarrassed. "I'm sorry," said the abbot, "but our bell is broken. It makes a terrible sound now. You wouldn't want to hear it." But the old woman insisted. So reluctantly, Thomas climbed the tower and rang the broken bell. The harsh, discordant sound echoed across the valley. Here's where the story takes a turn that no one expected. The old woman began to weep, not from distress, but from joy. "Finally," she whispered, "a bell that sounds like my heart." The monks were confused. "What do you mean?" asked Thomas. The old woman explained, "I've visited hundreds of monasteries, heard hundreds of perfect bells, but I am not perfect. I am broken, cracked, full of discord. Those beautiful bells always made me feel like there was no place for someone like me in the spiritual life. She looked up at the tower with tears in her eyes. But this bell tells me that even broken things can still call people to prayer. Even cracked vessels can still hold sacred purpose. Even discordant sounds can carry truth. The monk suddenly realized something profound. Since the bell had broken, different kinds of people had been coming to the monastery. People who felt damaged, imperfect, struggling. People who couldn't relate to the perfect, beautiful bell but found hope in the broken one. And Thomas. Thomas climbed the tower with completely new understanding. As he prepared to ring the bell again, he noticed something he'd never seen before. There was always a moment between pulling the rope and the sound emerging. In that space, he had a choice. He could pull with shame about the broken sound, or he could pull with acceptance of what was. When he chose acceptance, even the broken bell seemed to ring with a different quality. Still cracked, still imperfect, but somehow authentic. True, real. I love this story because it reveals something so important about our choice points. We often think the goal is to have perfect responses, perfect emotions, perfect reactions. But what if our choice point isn't about creating perfection? What if it's about how we relate to our own brokenness? Between every trigger and response, even when that response feels harsh or cracked or not what we wanted, there's a space where we can choose shame or acceptance, judgment or compassion, resistance or truth. Today's meditation is going to help you find that space and discover the freedom that lives there, even when, especially when, things feel broken. Let's explore this together. Find your comfortable position, letting your body settle, eyes closing or softening their gaze, taking a moment to arrive here fully, just as you are, perfect in your imperfection. Let's begin by connecting with your breath. Not trying to make it perfect, just noticing whatever rhythm is naturally here. Each breath carries its own authenticity, its own truth. Now bring to mind something about yourself that you might consider broken or imperfect. Maybe it's the way you react under stress, or a pattern you wish you could change, or simply the human messiness of being who you are. Instead of trying to fix this part of yourself, imagine it as Thomas might see this broken bell after meeting the old woman. What if this imperfection has actually been calling certain people toward you? What if your struggles have made you more compassionate? What if your cracks have let more light in? Think about a recent moment when you responded to something in a way that felt less than perfect. Maybe you snapped at someone, or shut down, or reacted with more emotion than you intended. Picture that moment. But now, locate the choice point, that tiny space between what triggered you and how you responded. In that space, notice that you have two choices. You can approach your imperfect response with the shame Thomas felt about his broken bell, or you can approach it with acceptance he learned from that wise woman. Breathe into that choice point. Feel the difference between shame and acceptance in your body. Shame contracts and judges. Acceptance breathes and allows truth to emerge. Now, imagine responding to that same trigger again, but this time, in the choice point between trigger and response, you chose self-acceptance. You chose to let authentic reaction emerge without shame, even if it's not perfect. Notice what happens when you remove the layer of self-judgment. Your response might still be human, still imperfect, but now it carries authenticity instead of shame, truth instead of pretense. Like the old woman who found hope in the broken bell, someone in your life might need to see that imperfect responses are still valid, that struggling people can still offer wisdom, that cracked vessels can still hold sacred purpose. Expand this practice now, thinking of all the choice points in your day. In each one, you can choose perfectionism or authenticity, shame or acceptance, hiding your cracks or letting them be part of your beautiful, broken wholeness. Feel the freedom in this. You don't have to have perfect responses to have meaningful choice points. Your power lies in not creating flawless reactions, but in choosing how you relate to your very human ones. Take 3 deep breaths, carrying this broken bell wisdom with you, knowing that your choice points are spaces of acceptance where even your imperfections can ring with truth. When you're ready, gently open your eyes. Remember Thomas' revelation. Your choice point isn't about creating perfect responses. It's about choosing acceptance over shame, authenticity over pretense, truth over the pressure to have it all figured out. Like that broken bell, your imperfect reactions might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Your struggles might be what makes you trustworthy. Your cracks might be where your light gets through. Between every trigger and response lies a space where you can choose self compassion, where you can choose to let your authentic self emerge, broken bells and all, instead of forcing a perfect tone that isn't really you. Sometimes the most powerful choice point discovery is realizing that you don't have to be perfect to be valuable, to be loved, to be enough. If this story of the broken bell spoke to something in you, I'd love for you to hit that like button and share in the comments what broken bell part of yourself might be ringing exactly the note someone else needs to hear. Subscribe to join me for more powerful meditations that explore the beautiful, messy truth of being human. And if you know someone who's struggling with perfectionism or feeling not good enough, please share this with them. Sometimes we all need to hear that our cracks can be sacred too. Thank you for bringing your whole authentic self in this practice. And I'll see you next week with another story that celebrates the wisdom hidden in our humanness.